everyone. Welcome back. If it's Wednesday, it's time for another Entertainment Exposed right here on Left to Straight podcast. As always, I'm your host, Scott Fullerton, and with me, the ever amazing Mr. David Reddish is back with us. David, how you doing, sir?
I am doing delightfully this week. We've had terrible rain here in Los Angeles, but the sun is out today. It's a little bit warmer, makes me feel good. I miss the heat. I live here for the heat and the sunshine, but at least we have one today, so it's better than the
Right.
alternative.
I'm not feeling too bad for you. As you can see from the background, I have made it back home safely from my 2-week sojourn across country. And our high today in Northeast Ohio is 47 degrees. It was 30 degrees overnight. Your rain is probably at around mid 70 to mid 60s. So I'm not
No.
feeling
It's 49 degrees right now. It's
really.
cold. Yeah, it's
Oh
it's
my
gonna heat up because
goodness.
of the sun, but
That is
it's
chilly.
cold. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
I
yeah.
had an amazing trip. I'm sorry we didn't get together in person, but we did have a
Yeah.
couple of good shows out of it. I was telling David's a good friend of mine, so we talk offline, of course, a lot. And I showed him and a lot of my other friends. I did a 5,000-mile trip in 2 weeks, David, and 91 miles from home. It's deer season in Northeast Ohio, and a deer ran across the highway and smashed in the entire front right side of my car. So that was the end of my 2-week adventure.
No, I'm so glad you're okay. First of all, like that's
Yeah, I was lucky. I mean,
scary.
I'm totally fine. There was no one else hurt. And like I said, it clipped off the front right side, which really kind of ruined the whole light fixture there. But 3 seconds earlier, would have been dead middle in the car. This was a big old buck. It would have killed the engine. It could have rolled up into the windshield. So very lucky and just glad to be home and having good insurance. So I'm good to go.
That is a beautiful way to look at it. Yeah, I'm from the Midwest too, so the deer issue is a real one. There was a family that died after getting
Yes.
they hit a deer and people were decapitated because it went through the windshield. Oh gosh, you're lucky. I'm glad you're okay.
It happens every year here in Ohio, and I'm sure there's a lot of Midwest states or back Northeast states that this happens to because deer season comes every year and it
Yeah.
happens every year. The tow truck driver that drove my car from the highway back home, I was his fourth deer thing that day. And then they came to pick up my car yesterday to take it to the collision place. They have 9 cars in their garage due to deer. Yeah,
Whoa.
so it's just an Ohio thing, I guess. Knock wood, I haven't had that happen before, but I drive very carefully in deer season because there's a lot of woods around me, and so I have to be careful. But
Yeah.
let's get into some entertainment fun. And since
Yes.
we are doing this on Wednesday, 2 days before, but you watching at home on the recording on Friday, it is Wicked Day across America. I've been reading the
Yes.
reviews, David. They're a little mixed, which you kind of
Yes.
told me to expect back 6 months ago, I think, when we first talked to you about it. You said that the second part of the show wasn't as exciting as the first when you saw it live. So talk to me about back then and what you're hearing now.
Yeah, well, I've lost many second dates for saying this, Scott. But the truth of the matter is, when I saw Wicked on stage as a musical, I thought it really came apart in the second act. The music is not very strong. It doesn't have anything nearly as exhilarating as Defying Gravity. There's nothing as funny as Popular. And in terms of the book, in terms of a plot, it's really shambolic. It's lots of like long monologues of exposition, and then there might be a little scene, a little song and dance number, and then there's even more exposition where someone comes out on the other side of the stage and gives a 5-minute monologue explaining what's going on that we're not seeing. My hope with breaking Wicked in two was that they could correct some of these problems and make it a little bit more of a smooth plot, make things breathe a little bit more. They certainly did that in part one, but it sounds like from the reviews that I've been reading, sadly, I've been emailing Universal. I have not been invited to a screening yet.
Same.
Universal, if you're
Yeah.
watching, I'm just saying. And plus, I'm supposed to be voting in awards, critics awards right now, so I need to see the movie if they want me to vote for it. The reviews that I've been reading have generally been good. I've not seen anything that is outright bad, but a lot of them talk about how the plot is kind of all over the place in the second half, how the music is not very strong, the two new songs are not very strong, and it doesn't have the newness or the effervescence of part one. And some of that is because they're taking a thing and they're splitting it in two. So I think automatically
Sure.
you're going to experience some of that. And even if they made a conscious effort to correct it, there's still going to be, there's still, it's an uphill battle. Let's put it that way.
Right.
Of course, Cynthia Erivo, Jonathan Bailey, and in particular, Ariana Grande are all getting rave reviews.
Yes.
Bailey is said to be underused in this part, given how talented he actually is. Half of the story, this part two, focuses a little bit more on Glinda. It's interesting because everybody says Elphaba's still the lead, but Glinda kind of steals the show in the second half. And I know one of the new songs called The Girl in the Bubble that was written specifically for the film. Apparently, Ariana Grande sings it beautifully, and her acting is spectacular. So people were already saying she could be a frontrunner for Best Supporting Actress at the Academy Awards this year. She was, of course, nominated last year, as was Cynthia Erivo. There's some chance they could both be up again this year. It remains to be seen, but I'm betting on strong box office and word of mouth for Wicked Part 2. Wicked for good, I guess is what we're supposed to call it. We'll see where they go with it.
Yeah, I am at the same place. Like I said, I was invited to one screening I couldn't make because of the travel of it all. And it's the same thing. I've not seen it yet. I've been reading the reviews, hearing very much everyone. Like I said, everything you said about it early on because of the play, which I agreed with when I saw the play as well, is seems to be coming to pass in the reviews that I've read so far. I also am reading a lot about the whole Wizard of Oz of it all, kind of slowed it down quite a bit because they really kind of
Yeah.
leaned into that more than they thought they would in the movie version. Obviously, it's a part of it, but you kind of get pulled out of the current Wicked story for the Wizard of Oz of it all. And so that I heard a little bit about that. People, I mean, for the queerness of it, of course, Jonathan Bailey, I heard, is not used as much. Everyone
Yeah.
was very excited when Coleman Domingo was announced a couple weeks ago to be the Cowardly Lion, and I hear that's very few lines.
Yes.
So the queerness of it is kind of obviously the scope of it is very queer, but I think the actual queerness of it is kind of is a little more limited than maybe we thought. So yeah, I'm hearing the same things.
I mean, the Wizard of Oz of it all, it's interesting that you say that because that's one thing that is very prominent in the stage version in the second half. It's like, oh, we've got to find the Scarecrow. We need to find Dorothy. We need to have the lion. We need to have the Tin Man. And that is not something in the novel Wicked. Those characters do appear, but it's very tangential. And the only one whose story is really maintained in the musical is the Cowardly Lion. There are two characters in Wicked that become the Scarecrow and the Tin Woodsman, but that is not in the novel. And it never made a lot of sense to me, except that they were trying to tie this closer to the Wizard of Oz, which I don't think they really need to do.
Right.
And they changed the ending from the novel, which the ending of the novel is kind of the point. It's the culmination of what we've been going through for a very long and meandering novel. But they really soften it, and maybe they had to do that for a family audience, but I still think it would have been wiser had they kept the ending of the book in some way or other. On the other hand, I say that, and there's already talk of Wicked Part 3. Ariana and Cynthia both said, and John Chu, the director, have all said that they're interested in it. They have an idea. They think they would move forward from it. The only one who's sort of dissenting right now is Bowen Yang, who's like, do we really need Wicked Part 3? Have we not said all we need to say right here? But
Yeah,
there are sequels to
I'd
the book,
heard that, and yeah, I'd heard that. Maybe it'll help with originality, maybe with the third, we'll see. But like a good gay, I'll be in line on Friday with my bud. So we're gonna see it this Friday when it first comes out. But yeah, I'm glad we were able to travel it. And like I said, you never steer me wrong. And when we talk about this 6 months ago, it seems to be all those reviews are coming to pass, which I had forgot from the last time I saw the stage version forever ago. But it'll
yeah.
be interesting to see. So what else do you have? I mean, movie-wise, it's going to be really interesting. I think it's obviously going to dominate this past week. I don't know if you paid too much attention in moviedom, but they really had a surprise. And Now You See Me, Now You Don't, coming in
Yeah.
as a first place in the box office, had like
Yes.
20 something domestically and 70 something globally with a 90 million budgets. That overperformed a bit. And the one they really thought might do well, Running Man,
Yeah.
underperformed. And it
Yeah.
came in at something like 20 something domestically and only 20 something globally with a $110 million price tag. So it was really interesting at the box office what happened last week and how Wicked's going to fare for these other two movies this week. It's going to be interesting.
It is. I think Wicked will do much better numbers than either of the films you just mentioned. First of all, I don't know anyone that was clamoring for a reboot of The Running Man. It's not considered to be one of Stephen King's greatest works. And the original movie is not considered to be a great movie. It's a fun Schwarzenegger vehicle, Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, and is very much of its time. So I understand why there's a temptation to update that, but I don't think the audience is there for it. It makes me wonder why they spent $100 and something million on it. And, in both cases, neither of those numbers are particularly strong. They're, for Now You See Me, Now You
Okay.
Don't, it's better, certainly compared to its budget. Neither of them are strong. People still are reluctant to go to the movies, and we could have a whole conversation about why and how I think COVID has a big something to do with that, and how everybody's just gotten too greedy in the movie business, not putting out enough and asking too much of the audience financially. But there you have it. Do want to talk about another musical film that I finally caught up on this week called Kiss of the Spider Woman. You talk about queerness
Ooh.
in musicals, which is a little redundant. This is a story. It's a love story set in a South American prison in Argentina, and it stars Diego Luna, Jennifer Lopez, and an actor who I do not know how to pronounce his name. He goes by the single name Tonatua. I think Tonatua. Is this how we say his
That's
name?
close enough for Gavin
Okay.
Moore. I'm the same way. I don't know how to say it.
Tonatua fans, please don't at me over this. I'm so sorry if I'm butchering his name. But it's a remake. It's a musical remake by Kander and Ebb, who did Chicago and Cabaret, of an '80s film with William Hurt and Raul Julia. And it basically follows the same plot about two political prisoners. One is in prison for being gay. The other is a revolutionary, who initially hate each other but develop this kind of friendship while they're in prison because they share this notion of the perfect woman who is played by Jennifer Lopez, the Spider Woman. And so they relate this story about her that one of them has seen in the movies, and one kind of falls in love with her and the other kind of wants to be her. I think it's interesting. I've written about this film before, and I got a lot of blowback because I said, certainly in 1985, it seemed like the character played by Tonatiuh in this version, William Hurt in the original version, is more of a trans woman. But I think but people really push back against that, saying, no, he's definitely a gay man. It's clear in the novel he's a gay man. Some of this is just cultural, that gay Latino men in South America of a certain time thought of themselves more as women, but didn't actually want to be a woman. Grant all of that. The movie's directed by Bill Condon, who directed Dreamgirls, and I thought did an awesome job with that adaptation. He wrote the screenplay for Chicago and follows a similar idea here, where the fantasy sequences are all the musical numbers. I desperately wanted this movie to be better than it actually is. I think Jennifer Lopez is very good in it, but she is playing this kind of ethereal character, so she doesn't bring the full breadth of her dramatic ability. The fact is, she is a good actress. We can talk about, is she a great pop star? Is she a great person? I think she is a good actress. They don't quite use her in the way that they could, though she's never been this magnetic to me on screen in terms of her singing and her dancing, and she seems to really inhabit this
Right.
character very, very well. She also gets the only good song called Kiss of the Spider Woman, the only good song in the score, which is the other major shortcoming of this. In terms of, the queerness of it all, the sort of love affair that develops between Diego Luna and Tonatiuh's characters, they don't hate each other enough in this version. They're a little too nice to one another. It's interesting to look at the original version where Raul Julia and William Hurt truly hated one another. Raul Julia did not at all shy back from the homophobia of his character, from his kind of violent nature, from his just sort of vile attitudes, which
Right.
makes the fact that they kind of do fall in love that much more powerful, and it sort of edifies the William Hurt character in a way that he wouldn't be before. That's how seductive his mind is. That's how seductive he is as a person, right? In this one, it's just sort of like, oh, and of course they fall in love because it's a musical and we know they're going to. And
Yeah.
it's kind of delightful to watch, but the two of them don't have intense enough chemistry for it to really work. The movie is not bad. It is just not what it could have been. And it's a major disappointment to me, who was hoping that it would be the other great musical this year that would give Jennifer Lopez a great meaty
Right.
part, that would give great meaty parts to Diego Luna, who's a wonderful actor, and to Tonatiuh, if indeed I'm saying his name correctly, who unfortunately does not seem to have as much charisma as he kind of needs to carry the movie. What can you do about it? Have you seen it yet, Scott? What are your thoughts?
Not seen it yet. Kind of heard a little bit of similarities in some of the things you've
Yeah.
said. I had not heard about the relationship not being as anticlimactic because I do remember that very well from the movie,
Yeah.
and there was definitely that tension there that brought the love story a lot more poignancy in the end. So I'm interested to look at that when I see it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I've not seen it yet or heard enough about it, but it's interesting take on it. I appreciate that.
Thanks. I think our listeners would find it interesting if nothing else. If you need something to throw at the screen some night, and let's face it, we all do from time to time, Kiss of the Spider Woman is maybe one to look at, but go into it with reasonable expectations. I want to mention, too, another sort of under the radar film that I watched last week that has just come out and I think is terrific. It's called Sallywood. As our listeners may know, last week the actress Sally Kirkland died at age, I believe,
Right.
82 after a long illness. Sally Kirkland was, if I have my memory serves, she was the first woman nominated for the Best Actress Academy Award to appear in an independent film. She was nominated for appearing in an independent
Right.
film called Anna, which is about a Czech actress. That's a film that everyone can watch already, that's easily available. And she's very, very good in it. She was nominated against Meryl Streep, Glenn Close, and Holly Hunter. That's a hell of a lineup right there. And it was four of their best performances all around. She ended up, she didn't win. She lost to Cher, who won for Moonstruck. But the fact that she was up against Cher for Moonstruck, that she was up against Glenn Close for Fatal Attraction, that's pretty amazing, in my opinion. It's a fine performance. Hollywood is a film, it is her final film in which she plays herself, or an actor named Sally Kirkland, who happens to be very, very similar to the real thing, where she takes in this guy who's obsessed with her, who's heavily implied to be gay. The movie never really makes it explicit, but a lot of the things he does, including sleeping with a stuffed unicorn, like a unicorn stuffed animal, definitely implied to be one of us, which is kind of sweet. He's this sweet sort of New England kid from Maine who is obsessed with the movie Anna. Once again, how many straight men do you think would be obsessed with Anna growing
Right.
up? I ask you that. He's obsessed with Sally Kirkland, and he ends up moving to Hollywood where he becomes her assistant. And of course, this friendship develops. The movie was written by somebody who is actually from New England, who actually did become Sally Kirkland's assistant. And it is sort of a love letter to their relationship. The timing could not be better in that it was already planned to come out at the same time Sally passed away, almost like it's her
Right.
final curtain, her final bow. Part of the reason I mention this, and this is important for our listeners to know, Sally Kirkland was a very early, very vocal advocate of gay rights. As far back as the early 70s, she was involved with Andy Warhol. She was in the whole New York scene there and was always very open and advocating for queer rights. She was a big fundraiser for HIV/AIDS research and continued that all the way up to her death. So definitely a great friend to the community, definitely a wonderful actress. And the movie is very, very funny. Jennifer Tilly plays the lead character's mother. Lenny Von Dolan, who our listeners will recognize from Twin Peaks, who passed away, I think, 3 years ago. The movie was on the shelf for a while. It was taking money to get
Right.
it finished. He plays the father. It's a terrific cast. People like Kay Lenz and Eric Roberts turn up. And it's sort of a meta comment on the fickleness of fame. One of the plot points of the movie is that Sally Kirkland is doing this low budget science fiction movie so she can get $1,800 to fix her car. This may sound familiar to you right now after your encounter with Bambi, Scott.
Yes.
But it's an interesting thing because you think, oh, someone who's famous and an Oscar nominee, well, of course she's got to have money. Of course she's going to work all the time. Well, no, she didn't. And I know people that knew Sally, and I know she did struggle financially in her later years. But this is also, Sydney Sweeney, who's a huge star right now, talks about how she spends more money every month on her publicist than she does on her mortgage in Los
Right.
Angeles. Like, this is one of the most expensive real estate markets in the world, and the publicist is still more expensive. Like, being famous is expensive. You do get some things for free. You get the attention, you get the free fashion and all of that for a time, but it's also very, very expensive to maintain. And a number of other prominent stars, actors are talking about how they're financially struggling right now because it's just so expensive to be part of the business.
Yeah.
Sallywood sort of encapsulates that very well, but it's also a beautiful love letter to a woman that was a friend to the community. And it's very, very funny to watch. So I encourage our listeners, Sallywood, now streaming on Amazon Prime for rental. Everybody check that out. It's a lot of fun if you, especially if you like things that are offbeat. It's definitely silly in that.
Yeah, I have that scheduled to watch this weekend. We did talk about her death a little bit last week, and like I said, I had a lot of friends that were very close with her. It was a lot of the gays that arranged a fundraiser for her these last
Yeah.
few weeks, months of her life. So yeah, it was a two-way love fest for her to the gays and the gays to her. So we're gonna miss her. And I've known about this documentary for quite a while. A lot of my friends were involved with one way or other, knew about it. So definitely, yeah, I'm glad you said that. I do want to take a slight left turn and go out
Yeah.
of Gatum for a second and just talk about a story that kind of made me feel good.
Yeah.
I don't know, with the length of time you've been in LA, but the Village Theater in Westwood was a huge place to go see a lot of the big blockbuster premieres.
Yeah.
Right in the corner there, and they would do
Yeah.
close down the streets, do a lot of premieres there, and it's definitely fallen on hard times for a while and was getting ready to be demolished. But I did see kind of a feel-good story this week. Jason Reitman, the director, and
Yeah.
35 other prominent directors, including Spielberg and I think Christopher Nolan and Chloe Zhao, however you pronounce
Zhao.
her
Yeah.
last name. 35 directors went together and bought the actual theater and are going to renovate it. So it's now been bought and saved. So I thought that was kind of a feel good story. It doesn't really have a queer bent to it. But I just remember as a kid, like I said, I grew up in LA. I would go, a lot of my friends went to UCLA, and that was kind of the fun, cool, hip place to go to on the weekends to meet different people. And it was a great gay community there. And the Village did all of the premieres. So every other weekend, there
Yeah.
was a premiere in downtown Westwood. So I'm glad that theater's being saved, just the history of it. So that was a fun story.
That's wonderful. I did see movies and pre-release screenings actually at the Vista. I think that's where I saw Batman Begins. That's where I saw the Peter Jackson remake of King Kong. I saw a few in there, and it is a wonderful venue. It's a beautiful theater, and it is something that should be preserved. But we need to get people to go back to the movies.
Yes.
Which, as I say, is a longer conversation for another time. Speaking of one movie that I think will get people back in the seat, back in seats, Avengers Doom, the upcoming Avengers sequel that will see them take on Doctor Doom, who's played by Robert Downey Jr., and we'll see the return of the original X-Men cast, including our dear beloved brothers Ian McKellen and Alan Cumming. I am stoked for this, and I don't even like the Marvel movies anymore. But they bring back my X-Men. All right, Kevin Feige, I'll pony up the money. I'll go see it. It's interesting because they just finished shooting, I think, yesterday. It's been a very recent wrap, but one of the tidbits that has leaked out is that there will be multiple Doctor Dooms, multiple versions of Doctor Dooms in this movie, and some of them will be switched up gender-wise. Some of them will be switched up character-wise, and they're going to be played by some prominent actors. I don't know who yet, but if I find out, maybe we can offer a few hints to our audience. I'm very much looking forward to that. Speaking of all things geekdom, I'm in touch with the folks over at Comic-Con, which one thing, I think the thing I missed the most over the summer when we were on hiatus was that we didn't get to do a whole episode devoted to Comic-Con, which you and I like to do.
Right. Yeah.
We did talk about it a bit and some of the great things I saw there, but I'm looking forward to going back to Comic-Con next year and WonderCon, which is the sister convention held here in Anaheim, and bringing that to our listeners. So just a tip off there. I also want to go over to, let's go back to the theater if we can, because you and I discussed a little musical called Chess last week,
Right.
which stars Leah Michele of Glee fame. Speaking of mixed reviews, the reviews finally came out for Chess, and they are not great. They're very, very mixed. And they say the same thing that all reviews of Chess always say, which is the book is a mess, the characters are not likable, and they're kind of remote, but the score is fantastic, and the actors sing it well.
Right.
So I don't think this is the definitive version of Chess, which is sort of what it was marketed to be, that they finally fixed it, they finally got it right. Not from the sounds of it, including from my friends who have seen it. So, our air traffic controllers are coming back. They're coming back to work this week. So I don't know. I would love to go out and give a proper review to Chess and a few other shows that are opening in New York this month, but we'll see if that happens. Did you read the reviews for Chess, Scott?
I have read some of the reviews. Like you said, the score and the singing by Leah Michele and Air
Yeah.
Debate especially have been stellar for the singing, but I kind of have heard the same mixed reviews for the show, which we knew was a little problematic and
Yeah.
different. There's been a lot of iterations of it, like we talked about a couple weeks ago, and there's been problematic iterations before. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's. I don't think it was a surprise. I don't think it was a surprise to hear that Leah Michelle and Aaron. Who's the third person? Oh gosh,
Oh crud. The two guys. Oh, Nicholas, I can't think of his name right now. You're taking me off guard, man.
I'm blanking too, but yeah,
Yeah, they all
but
got basically good reviews. She
right,
apparently sounds wonderful, but I've heard some criticisms of her acting choices that she doesn't really seem to have chemistry with the two men. And since it's a love triangle, that's kind of important.
right.
You know, we'll see. I'm not based on those reviews. I'm not anticipating huge box office or a long running box office for it or a major tour,
Right.
unfortunately. Speaking of tours, though, I am seeing the musical Suffs tonight. That's Suffs for our listeners, short for suffragettes. And if you thought a musical about chess seemed a little counterintuitive, like what about chess screams song and dance to you? It doesn't really scream song and dance to me. Suffs is about women's suffrage, and it is a musical that got some great reviews. And I'm excited to see this tour and then share my proper review next week with everybody.
Yeah, Hillary Clinton's actually producer of that. I
Yeah,
know another person that's a producer. It's a friend of mine. I won't say his name right now, but he actually saved a restaurant in there as well. But he's produced quite a few restaurants. I'll talk about him next week. I'll talk
that'd
to
be
him
great.
first to see what I can say. But yeah, Hillary's part of that. Quite a few very prominent women are part of the production background of stuff, and it's a very interesting story. And I've been seeing it kind of moving along for a while now. So we can talk maybe a little more about that next week because I will have a little inside information
That'd be
probably
great.
for that.
I think that's what I have for this week. It's going on in theater and film. There's not a whole lot going on in series right now in television or in music, in my opinion. Taylor Swift's new album is getting mixed reviews from most of the people I hear about. I'm not a huge Swift boater, whatever we're calling them. But good on her for being so popular and making all that money.
Well, I'll do one last story to finish up with,
Yeah.
and we'll go to television this time. It's a thing that kind of caught my eye that I'm looking forward to. John Wells and Phoebe Fisher are creating a new series. John Wells, of course, was behind ER. He's been part of The Pit, a lot of huge television shows. John Wells has been part of the production team of. And Phoebe Fisher, very interesting. She did the Cruel Intentions television series that was out, wrote for that.
Oh wow,
She
yeah.
wrote for the queer of it all. She wrote, co-wrote with Lucas Cage, the movie Down Low. I don't know if you saw that.
I
Very
didn't.
funny, but it had a great. Lucas Cage co-wrote it, and it starred Zachary Quinto and him and
Right.
everything. Very funny gay rom-com, but she co-wrote that. So it's a great team together that's doing a new right up your alley political theater called The Isle. And it's going to be about a newly elected senator that comes to town and the whole machinations that happen around getting an office set up around a new senator in town. And of course, Wells was part of West Wing, and with Phoebe's pedigree, could be an interesting series that could coincide with your other work. Who
No.
knows?
Well, if they're listening, I'm happy to do a cameo. But yeah, our Congress is providing enough theater right now. Part of me wonders if is it a good idea to do this show right now simply because there's so much political news, which is basically one big reality show at this point that they're going to have to compete with. We'll see. Somehow the politicians in television and film always seem to be a lot more, they seem to have a lot more integrity than the real thing.
Well, it's a great show today. Thanks for all of your insight, as always, David. We appreciate you. Like I said, we hope you'll turn in either live on Wednesdays, 11:30 p.m. Pacific time, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, or you can catch the repeat available anytime after Fridays on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and iTunes. If you are into politics, like David and I are on our off times, actually it's David's other on time,
Yeah.
he'll tell you where you can find him. It's an amazing thing that Occupy Democrats do. So look for all news information there. Of course, as always, Left to Straight podcast. We're going to be building up again as I get back and settled here. But David, remind everyone where they can find you, both Occupy and on social media, my friend.
You can find me on Occupy Democrats TV on YouTube. I am one of the lead anchors, and I'm on every weekday and sometimes even on the weekends. And you can find me on social media at The Gay Magneto on Instagram or Ko-Fi.
Fantastic. We appreciate you as always tuning in, guys. We'll be back next Wednesday with another Entertainment Exposed, news from the world of entertainment with a little bit of a queer bent to it. We appreciate you tuning in. Thanks, David. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you, Scott.